Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Two for Talking podcast. I'm your host, Corey Tusick. I've got comedian Joe Bartnick and Josh Yohe with The Athletic alongside. Joe, you can check him out at the Pittsburgh Improv this July 10th. And also, if you're up northeast, you can go to the Boston Comedy Studio on August 23rd.
Yes. I'm sorry, Corey. I didn't mean to cut you off. You are the host of the show, but I just want to thank everybody that came out to the sold-out DVE Comedy Fest on Friday night at the Old City Winery. I do say old because I went to the other City Winery and it was late, but that's standard Bartnick. But thank God there's only one Bynum Theater, and that show is fabulous too. So I just want to thank everyone at DVE, Randy and Bill, and Abby for putting me on, and just everyone there. Mashita is the best, and Mr. Alfonsi, Anthony, they're all, it's just fabulous. But anyway, big plug for Two for Talking 2 nights, guys. Nice pop. You heard him with Josh Yohe on Two for Talking, and a little pop. So it was nice. So I want to thank all the fans, and it was a great weekend. I will be at the Improv the 10th, and then I have a bunch of other dates on joebartnick.com. But I didn't mean to catch up. I just want to really thank the people that came out, because a lot of great Penguins fans in the crowd. So
no, that was great to hear. I mean, Joe, you texted us and said you were like, show went well. I didn't even know you were in the DV Comedy Fest. You just kind of snuck that one in on us.
Well, I was special surprise guest, which was fun. I didn't have to worry about it.
Show up and sweat it.
Like the Ultimate Warrior in WrestleMania 8, he just came charging out at the end. I like it.
Pretty much the truth too. A couple cocktails, got there, throw my dick jokes.
It's all right.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that, huh? But so we got some new coaches. We'll talk about that, and we'll get into some of those details. But Josh, you've been writing a lot. In fact, the podcast started a little late because you were writing. This might be the busiest time of the year for you. And I joked before we started recording, if you throw Brian Rust in the word trade on a thumbnail, Joe is clicking that article within seconds. Brian Rust, Ricard Raquel, any other people, but I mean, we'll start with those two. Is there some fire with that smoke that is going on in Kyle Dubas's world?
I don't know that it's imminent. I don't get the sense that anything is brewing at this very moment with those two. I'll start with Raquel, and this, there's some old news here, I guess, but he's always been available. It's not like he's untouchable. He certainly was not untouchable at the trade deadline back in March. What happened in March, very simply, was that, Dubas wanted a ton. He didn't like any of the offers he got. And from what I've been told, he was actually surprised that there wasn't more interest in Raquel. There was some, but I don't think it was anything like he was expecting. I know a lot of people were really pissed off back at the deadline. Why did you trade Raquel? It was a seller's market. You could have got a ton for him. And my sense is, no, they wouldn't have gotten a ton for him. And he just didn't think that was a smart piece of business. So we don't know specifically what the offers were, but certainly wasn't to his liking. So I don't think it's changed. I don't think he's eager to trade Ricard Raquel. But if somebody blows him away at the draft or on July 1 or at some point this summer, it could happen. It's in play. Rust is an interesting one. As we all know, July 1st is the day when he loses his no movement clause. So we know a lot of things. We know Rust doesn't want to go anywhere. We know Sidney Crosby doesn't want him to go anywhere. I don't know Dan Muse very well yet, but I can't imagine he wants Brian Rust to go anywhere. Talk about a guy that coaches love. Of course they do. So the real question becomes, what does Kyle Dubas want? And here's where it gets interesting. He loves Rust. And he understands all that Rust brings, not just that he's still a great player, but also, as we say every week on this show, the guy should have a letter on his chest. And you want somebody like him around younger players. So that's in Dubas's mind. But I've been told that, if the right offer's made, Brian Rust isn't untouchable either. And I've talked with people in the organization who are a little surprised, because I think the sense was, well, just because that no movement clause is going to be off the books on July 1st, that doesn't mean anything. Rust isn't going anywhere. Now you talk with people and it's kind of like, if the right deal were made and there is heavy interest in him, it's possible. So do I think it happens this summer? No, I don't. Now, it could happen this summer. Of course it could. Anything's possible. I think he'll start the season with the Penguins. If they're bad this year and there's a bidding war for him at the trade deadline, could he go then? I could certainly envision that happening. And Joe, I know you don't want to hear that, but it certainly is in play. And I love Rusty as much as you do, Joe. I think the world of him as a player and as a person. Everybody's got a price. Now, if somebody makes Kyle some absurd offer, I can understand why he would do it. But man, Russ is a tough one, is he not?
Yeah, I would like to see the absurd offer, and I hope it starts with Matthew Nyes or Kachuk. Somebody named Kachuk or Bennett. I don't know. My thoughts for the last year and a half on this show. You're looking. And you put it always in your articles. 30 goal scorer, penalty kill, power play. Coaches love him. Speed, 2 rings. Not that old yet. I don't know. You want to get rid of everybody? So in 3 years, when Sid does leave, there's no one to go see, and there's 9,000 people in the stands. Dubas, you want to do that? Well, then go right ahead and start from scratch, like in Chicago. I can see Raquel. I can even see, if Gino has 60 points and played pretty good, or 80 points and 26 goals and is only hurt for 3 weeks. I can even see, what? We had a great 20 years. I can see all that, but I can't see moving Brian Rust. I know I love Rusty more than almost anybody. I just don't see how it's a good hockey move unless there is a bidding war, because we all know they're going to stink this year. I'm not trying to be a downer. So there is going to be a bidding war for him. And so if it's a first round pick and a real stud defenseman with some balls that's over 6 foot, then yeah, maybe okay. But at this point, I can't see it ever making sense to take away Sid's best winger and easily the third best Penguin.
Every time I write about Brian Rust, I always think of Joe. Like, I was writing this like last night. I'm thinking, oh man, Joe's dad just passed away. He's having a tough run of it right now. Now I got to write this. He's going to get so upset. Listen, if you trade Brian Rust, you don't just lose a really good top 6 player. He's so much more than that. As Mike Sullivan was a very quotable man, and when you would ask Sullivan about different players, you would get kind of the certain canned responses, but they were really good responses. And anytime you would ask him about Brian Rust, he would simply say he's a Pittsburgh Penguin. And he didn't say that about anyone else. That was his response about Brian Rust. And I think every time you hear that, you're like, yeah, he is. He is one of those guys who should just be here forever. I don't think anybody in the organization disagrees with that. I don't even know that Kyle does. I think Kyle's problem, and it's a real one, is that he has so many people on this team he can't trade. Like, nobody wants Chris Letang. Even if he does manage to trade Erik Karlsson, and we'll get into that in a second, I don't think the return is going to be that much. The return is just getting rid of most of his salary. Brian Rust is one of the few guys on the team that could actually get you a huge return. And therefore, I think, call it temptation, call it whatever you want from Dubas' standpoint. I can certainly see that because he only has so many tradable options in Rust from everything I've heard. And why wouldn't teams want him? Why wouldn't the Detroit Red Wings want him? Why wouldn't teams who have a chance to go from good to great, why wouldn't you want him? Of course, if you're the Montreal Canadiens, why wouldn't you want him? I can go down the list. It makes sense.
Well, and thank you. I think my dad's calling in from heaven, Big Joe, 10:09. What would the haul be? What kind of haul? I would say this. I would think I want something that I can really sink my teeth into. Like if Sully goes, Keandre Miller, I think about that. I want something that comes back that's going to make the Penguins better right now. I don't want Kyle Dubas to go through his draft pick Rolodex.
Well,
I want someone that, okay, the trade happens on Wednesday. Thursday night, Keandre Miller's in the lineup and he scores. He's on the power play. Letang is on the third pair and he's getting 24 minutes a night and he's doing things.
Here's my counterpoint to that, though, is that if we're trading Rust, then we're not going to be good. So what's the point of getting a guy? What's the point of getting another guy that's ready to play right now? You know what I mean? Like,
you're absolutely right, Corey. And that's what I've been fighting here for a year and a half. I just want to be good. I don't want to stink. I don't see the purpose of And now the whole national media, Josh, in Canada, everywhere's like the only team that wants to suck this year is Pittsburgh.
I can't believe we're in that.
It's like the truth.
I mean, keep in mind there are certain people in the national media who really don't like Kyle Dubas too. So that probably plays a little bit of a role. And I will say this, from everything I've heard, like Kyle is not interested in acquiring draft picks anymore. Like he has enough of those. And we all know it's 31 draft picks, I think, in the next 3 years. And a ton of them are in the first 3 rounds. I think he feels like that's more than enough. There's a surplus there. So he really does want to get guys who are ready to play now. I don't know if Rust or Raquel are going to be traded. If they are, I don't know that it's one of those trades where it's for a first-round pick and a prospect. I don't really think it is. I think it would be more along the lines of, we are going to trade 32-year-old Rickard Raquel, but we're going to get back that 23-year-old guy who had a pretty good rookie season and who, maybe isn't as good as Raquel is right now, but might be in a year or two. Something along those lines. I really don't think he's going to trade them just for the sake of adding more draft picks or prospects. I think that's what the Gensel trade was for. I think that's what some other trades that we've seen are for, that they have an embarrassment of picks. I mean, let's just say if the Rangers end up giving them their pick next year, which we don't know yet, but if that happens in the 2026 draft, which everybody talks about as this great draft, at that point, the Penguins would have 2 first-round picks, at least one of them probably pretty high, and 3 second-round picks already. So they're good on draft picks. They really are. I think Kyle realizes that now's the time to get some good 23-year-old guys, not good 18-year-old guys.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, maybe I don't mean to jump over Corey if he has a plan, but he has 31 draft picks. Mason Marchment, definitively tougher than a $3 steak, kid that can score, top 6, went to Ronnie Francis in Seattle for a 3rd and a 4th. That hurts. I mean, wait. I mean, really? Like I would have given a 1st-round pick for Marchment. I swear to God, he's exactly what the Penguins need.
I agree. He's a guy that I like. When we all saw that trade, I was like, "Ooh, okay, that's interesting." I hadn't heard that the Penguins were in on him, but he strikes me as somebody they do want, that style of player, that age player, no question. Trevor Zegras went to Philadelphia today. Now he's not that style of player at all, but he's not without talent. That's for sure. And Philly didn't give up a ton to get him either, really.
Josh, I like that kid a lot. Yeah. I watched him a lot in Anaheim. I was always like, I wouldn't trade this guy if I was. I know a lot of Ducky fans out there, and I'm like, I like the Zegras kid, and he has some swag and he has some panache. And he's going to be rubbing it in our faces for the next 5 years because you know why? Because he's going to have Nick Delorier backing him up, and we're going to have to suck it up. It's a terrible trade for us Penguin fans.
And Rick Tockett's probably just what he needs, if I had to guess. I think he will be very good for him.
He didn't turn his game around this year. He showed a lot of edge this year. He played with some balls this year. I think he had a really good year. I'm surprised. I mean, I don't know why they got rid of him. I guess people are saying, well, they have their number 1 and 2 centers already. But, Zegras is a pretty good wing. And we all know Paling is garbage. I mean, Philly really gave nothing for him.
No, and you got Michkov there. And
he's going to be great on that Flower power play.
Yeah, that I hate to give the credit to any. And I will say, like, who, Josh, I learned this from you. You've talked about, like, whenever you hear from players that say, like, oh, look out for that guy. And when I interviewed Sergei Miroshov and we were talking after the interview and he mentioned Michkov, he goes, watch him. And I'm like, really? Like, oh, crap. Like, I don't want, like, he doesn't know. He's from Russia. He doesn't know what the Flyers Penguins mean. And I'm like, that's not good news. Like, the Zegras deal did not make me feel real good.
No, they're certainly acquiring some young talent. And, I've heard a lot of people in recent days in the national media say the Penguins are the only team not looking to get better this offseason. On the surface, nobody likes to hear that. I don't know if that's the right way to word it necessarily, but I also think we can agree the Penguins probably aren't going to be good next season. It does put them in an interesting position. Let's just hypothetically say if everyone in the league is trying to get better this season and the Penguins are not, like, does that give the Penguins a certain kind of leverage, a certain kind of advantage if they really are just looking to be sellers or whatever you want to call it? If nobody else is, that theoretically gives them a massive advantage in terms of what they should be trying to get in return. But it's a depressing outlook if that is indeed the case. And I don't, from everyone I talk to, I don't think they're tanking next season. We're going to hear the tank for Gavin McKenna all summer. I don't really think that's the plan. But I'm curious to see what the plan is, because Kyle talks a lot about urgency. He always uses the word urgency in terms of making the Penguins championship contenders again. We're going to find out a lot in the next 10 days. Because I'm not saying the guy's a liar. I don't think he is. But I want to see what urgency looks like to him and what he does in the next 10 days. I think we'll find out a lot about just how urgent things really are.
This comment, I just pulled it up. I mean, not this particular situation, but, if the top guys falls in this draft, do you package Raquel to move up and get someone who's an 18-year-old that is going to be pretty darn good, a blue chip prospect?
It's conceivable, I guess. It's interesting. Lars, thank you for that question. I saw that. And you mentioned for those who haven't studied the draft a whole lot, you've heard me talk a lot about a young guy named Porter Martone, who's a power forward, the Ontario Hockey League. I've seen him play in person a bunch. I absolutely love him. He's got a little bit of Corey Perry in his game, a little bit of Tom Wilson in his game. I mean, he's going to be a big-time power forward. Most scouts think he's a top 3 or 4 player in this draft, but everybody wants centers so badly, and everybody wants defensemen so badly. And he's a winger, so there's a chance he could drop, probably not to 11. If he's still there, 7 or 8, could I see the Penguins move up? I could. Raquel or Rudd, that might be too much to give up, honestly, just to move up 3 spots in the draft. With all those draft picks the Penguins have, maybe that's where a couple of those would come in handy, perhaps. It's hard to move up in the draft, though. When it's a top-heavy draft like this, I don't know that many teams want to move from 8 to 11 when most teams only think there's around 10 real blue-chip players in this draft, so it might be tough. It wouldn't shock me, though. I've said that for a while. They'll have certain players that they have identified that they really want. And maybe Corey and Joe, some of this has to do with, do the Rangers give them the 12th pick or not? We still don't know. We'll find out for sure by Wednesday. So that certainly could change things when you have that firepower of 11 and 12. Makes it a lot easier to move up at that point if you have both.
I saw a disturbing mock draft. And now I haven't read an NFL mock draft in about 25 years. I read all the NHL ones. It shows you how crazy I am. And they had the Flyers taking the defenseman that you were opining about in your article last week. And I'm like, that's what we really need. Yeah.
Oh no, he's a tough son of a bitch by all accounts. So.
Would we, if Martone is gone, is he good enough, or you think Dubas would respect him enough to take him at 10, or he's just not going to be? We're not going to take him at 10 or 11.
Who's that? Martone?
No, the defense. If Martone goes at 8 and he's not there, will we maybe just grab that defenseman, or that's just not going to happen?
I could see that for sure. I know Aitchison's a guy that Penguins really like. They took him out to dinner during the combine and got to know him a little bit. And, Kyle will specifically tell you that the left side of the blue line is a real problem, and he knows it. Now, this kid probably wouldn't be in the NHL for a year or two. But he is, by all accounts, the most abrasive, nastiest player in the draft. He also scored a bunch of goals this year, and I don't know how that offense will translate to the NHL, but I know from every scout I've talked to, he is just a tough customer. He goes looking for violence quite a bit. That's just his style, and he can play too. He's not just a tough guy; he can handle the puck, but he is the toughest, meanest defenseman in this draft. Boy, does that sound like somebody the Pittsburgh Penguins can use, doesn't it?
And he can't go to Philly. He can't.
It's
But
like a
now,
Pittsburgh guy, you know.
the Garbakov, who is, I watch him all the time with the Kings. He's excellent. He seems to be out there.
Oh yeah.
Now he's exactly what the Penguins need. Is he just because he's not 15 that we're not going to get him? Or
I mean, absolutely. I think he's somebody they would be interested in. I don't know that he would have the Penguins at the top of his list right now. And there's going to be a bidding war for that guy. It's not really a great free agency class, especially on the blue line. I have to think, and I guess the Kings have salary cap issues. I'm guessing that's why they wouldn't bring him back, because he's a really nice defenseman. He's like 28 or 29. I think he's not an old guy.
they have a lot of D. That's pretty much why.
They do. But no, I know for a fact there's a lot of teams that are really, really interested in him. We'll see, but yes. And that's, when we talk about how urgent are the Penguins, well, if you want to get good right away, you sign somebody like that. But Dubas already told us basically on July 1st, I'm not going to do anything crazy. I'm not signing any huge names to, long-term contracts. I think this July 1st, in terms of the free agency signing period, will probably look like last year's July 1st. They'll sign a couple of guys that you've heard of, but it's probably going to be the short-term deals and not big-time players. I think if he does make a splash, it's going to be on the trade market. He said that basically, that's what he's really looking to do, that he doesn't think you get real value on July 1st, which he's right. I mean, of course you're going to overpay on July 1st. We know this. He has come right out and said, I'm going to be active on the trade market. We haven't seen it yet, but I expect there's a deal coming at some point this week, given everything that he has said. I'd be very surprised if there's not.
So you're telling me we're going to see Kevin Hayes prominently featured on the power play?
Oh, God. I mean, it's conceivable. I mean, the good news there is that it's a whole new coaching staff. So,
Yeah.
so maybe they will not see the positives in that. I don't know. I hope they'll put number 71 on the power play if this is indeed his last season in Pittsburgh. We'd all like to see him up there, I think. But who knows who will be on the power play, and will Erik Karlsson be on the power play? Will he be on the roster? That's a question I have. People keep telling me around the league, like, he's out there, he's available. Don't be shocked if something happens now. Remember, with Karlsson, he's got the no trade clause too. And my sense with him is, very simply, there are some teams he would be willing to go to, and some, frankly, he would not. He does not dislike playing in Pittsburgh. He likes it here. He likes living here. His family likes it here. He likes playing with Sid, even though it obviously hasn't been successful. So I really think he's the type. He's not just going to say, "Oh, okay, you can trade me to Winnipeg or whatever." No, there's certain cities I think he'd be willing to go to. The Penguins have to find the right match, however. But it wouldn't shock me if it happens. He's out there, and I think the perception of him is probably a little higher around the league than it is for those of us who watched him play every day the last 2 years.
Speaking of coaches, Todd Reardon went to Philadelphia.
Yeah, how about that?
A reunion with Tocchet. Let's go through the Penguins coaches. Do you have them?
Actually have the image to put up here. Look at this fancy stuff.
Uh-oh.
Oh, geez.
Breaking the internet here.
Yeah. Oh, Corey. Geez. Corey's putting in the extra time here, huh?
Look at this.
Yeah. So Joe, I'm curious to get your thoughts, but Todd Nelson was somebody that I think we were all hoping he might be in the running for the job. And
I'll tell you the truth. I am happy with Todd Nelson. I think he's a solid man. Who's going to go against Nick Bonino? I mean, I want Nick to play. Richie Clunes, he's big time. He had some whispers that he can head coach a bunch of places. I have two questions on the last two guys. One, did we lose our number one video? Did Sully take that guy to New York? Because that guy was like 30-1 in the last 8 years. I'm spacing his name. Sauce.
Yeah. Andy Socher. He's the
Andy Socher. Is he not with the organization anymore, or he is?
No, it's Madison Nickel was the guy in charge last year on the videos. He's just as good. So
okay, Sauce got let go? What did I miss?
No.
Oh, Sauce is still there?
Yeah. But
okay. Well then, so here's my big question: Andy Chiodo. Our goaltending is stunk. There's one guy to get fired. It's him. Andy, I don't care if you watch the show. Please. Josh, if you have to deal with it, you have to say, I'll say it. What the F?
I mean, I'm surprised he's back, given, and I truth serum, Andy Chiodo is one of my favorite, nicest guy on earth. I mean, everybody loves him, but there's no denying the goaltending was terrible last season.
For years.
I was very surprised that he was brought back. The explanation that I received from some people in the organization pretty much was that the goaltending was not good last season, but the Penguins are more of the belief that any goaltender, Patrick Waugh in his prime, would have looked terrible behind that team the way it played defense last season, and they don't blame Andy Chiodo for that. I mean, there's probably some wisdom there. I'm surprised they brought him back. I thought for sure at the end of the season there was no way Andy was getting his job back. So no, I'm surprised. I also fully acknowledge that from my standpoint, for what I do for work, goaltending is the hardest thing to figure out. It's the hardest thing to write about. And I don't understand. I can't tell you, well, this guy's a good goaltending coach or this guy isn't. We're all just going to base it on how the goaltender performs in the numbers. Maybe he is a really good coach, and maybe Tristan Jarry's been a mess mentally. I don't know. But admittedly, I'm surprised he's back. I'm happy for him on a personal level, but did not see that coming. Absolutely not.
I mean, just a new voice in the room. I mean, just for that. I mean, if you don't know if we can all say, who knows what goaltending is, it's witchcraft. At least maybe a different guy telling Jarry, hey, step out of the paint. Move up, look bigger. Hey, Ned, don't play the puck.
We like your goals, Ned, but
you know what I mean? I mean, just somebody different saying that may help the cause, And that being said, I heard on a national show in Canada where someone floated out that maybe Jarry will look good in Edmonton. Now, first I thought, is this announcer in concussion protocol? But but you've been saying, Josh, for a while that someone may bite.
It only takes one. It only takes one bite. That's right. And, I mentioned, Erik Karlsson being out there and available. We all know Jarry's available. Of course, Jarry's available. The Penguins would be delighted to trade him, I'm sure. But in Tristan's defense, as everybody who was still paying attention at the end of the season knows, he did play pretty well in the last 6 weeks. Shockingly, nobody, because he was terrible in Wilkes-Barre that second time he went down. He was giving up 4 goals a game, and they brought him back up because they really had no other choice. And all of a sudden, he cost them about 5 slots in the draft and looked really good along the way. Did he look good enough for a team to take a flyer on him? I don't know. But Edmonton is obviously one that jumps into your mind. Obviously, the goaltending has been an issue in Edmonton off and on. They are desperate for answers. Jarry has a history in that city, winning the Memorial Cup 11 years ago, I think it was. So it's worth a phone call, and I'm sure one has been made. I expect that he'll still be the Penguins goaltender when the season starts. But, the cap is going up. He only has 3 years left on his deal at $5 million. If you're going to get good goaltending, that's a contract you don't mind at all. I would suggest that you can't really trust getting good goaltending from Tristan Jarry. But the good news is, if you're the Penguins, who do you trust in the NHL to give you good goaltending? There's only about 10 goalies that you do trust.
Yeah.
Corey, we can make fun of Jarry all we want. But you know who's been listed as the top free agent goaltender? Jake Allen. So, really, who'd you rather have? I mean, Jarry may not show up in the playoffs, but I think he's better than Jake Allen on a day-to-day basis.
He's really listed as the top free agent goaltender. Ugh. I mean,
I'm saying, like we've sat here and made fun of him for a year and a half, but I mean,
yeah. I mean, I don't
overpay for Jake Allen
or something. I was like, wait a minute, when's his contract up?
That's the problem teams have. Very seldom do we see good goaltenders on July 1st. I mean, the good ones get locked up, and frankly, the average ones get locked up too. And so that's what happened to the Penguins 2 years ago. They didn't want to bring Tristan Jarry back for 5 years. I don't know that they wanted to bring him back at all. They felt like they didn't have any other options. I mean, that's really the long and the short of it. I still remember, a couple of months after the deal, I was talking with Mike Sullivan. I said, 5 years for Tristan? And he just looked at me and goes, what else could we do? We didn't want to give him 5 years. It's basically what he told me, but we didn't have any other choice, and that was the going rate. Otherwise, he was going to sign elsewhere. Where, I'm not sure. But that's that's the situation the Penguins are in. The goaltending, and listen, what if he has a good first half of the season? Then I bet you could trade him. But who knows? If he has a good first half, that means that you're probably in playoff contention.
Yep.
And then you don't really want to trade him, right? So I don't know. It's a very interesting spot, but he's out.
I still want to trade him.
Him and Erod, two of the people that have kind of really ruined the Penguins playoffs for me the last couple times.
And don't forget Dominic Simone.
Yeah.
What I've learned in the last month though is maybe the greatest thing Ron Hextall did for the Penguins was give Russ that no trade clause. At least I've had peace until July 1st.
See, Ron was looking out for you in the
He
end.
was. I was.
What do we know about Todd Nelson? Like, I like it, Josh, in your article in the Athletic. It kind of sounds like Todd's really respected guy that's been around, been on an NHL bench, in a head coaching position, and then you have someone like a Nick Bonino to kind of balance out, and maybe it's a friend of Sid's. Hey, there's another familiar face for Sid. And
well, I'll tell you, Todd Nelson. It's funny. The day Mike Sullivan was fired, when I got the news, I was sitting in my hotel in Tampa, and here's what happens in our business. Like, I'm writing the article 10 minutes later, and bosses are always looking to push things forward. So I already got the text from the boss. Hey, I need an article, who the likely candidates to replace Sullivan would be. I'm like, oh, Jesus, I don't know. It's been 10 minutes, right? But the first name that popped in my mind was Todd Nelson, just because he's a guy that had so much success at the AHL level. And you just hear his name in NHL circles. He's a very highly respected guy. I was surprised they could get him to come in an assistant role. And I think that's a really good thing. He's, a guy who's actually in his mid to late 50s, I think. He's been around a while. He has some experience. But he's also got that pedigree of coaching at the American level for a long time. So he theoretically should be very good with young players as well. I think he's a great guy to add to the staff. And Bonino, that he's a total wild card here. We don't know if he's a good coach or not. He's never done it. But he is one of those players who, you would think he would be a good coach. Mike Sullivan used to say that he and Matt Cullen were like having coaches on the ice because his cerebral was always the word that Mike used for Nick Bonino. He wasn't the most gifted guy, but he just understood the game at a very high level. So it's fine taking a chance on him. And also, if you're worried about Dan Muse having a hard time getting through to the big three who are about the same age as him, having Bonino around, I think, is a good thing. All three of those guys love him. There is a respect there. And I think he will probably be a good bridge to the head coach if there are any issues, much like Rick Tocchet was once upon a time. I think Bonino has all the characteristics to be a really good coach. We shall see.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see. I was surprised too. It was like the moment he retired that basically the news broke and it was coming out. But there's something I wanted to bring up to you guys. It deals with Marc-Andre Fleury, and we'll get to it after we mention our lovely sponsor. But Marc-Andre Fleury had some interesting things to say that I saw quoted in regards to Sidney Crosby and his future. But before we get to that, Josh, take it away about Mr. Bill Neofus.
It's great that you mentioned the Flower, who happens to be Mr. Bill Neofus' favorite player ever, I think. Maybe after 66, I would guess, but he named his dog.
Yeah,
66 is always number one, but he named his dog Fleury, so we know.
Hey, I'm not going to put words in the great Bill Neofus' mouth, but it's almost like Mario's the given.
Well, right. That's kind of like everyone's favorite player was always Mario. Who's your other guy? Like,
yeah, it's like they always had to pick Mario and Sega.
Right. Yeah. Right. When I was a kid, it was like, well, I'm an arty guy, but Mario, but otherwise I'm an arty guy. Anyway, You mentioned this last week, so I'm going to mention it again because I didn't even know this. Our message from Bill, let's talk about pets. Our partner, the Neofus Insurance Group, offers the best in-class pet insurance through Nationwide Insurance. Pet insurance. It actually makes a ton of sense. As Bill reminds us, more than 90 million families in the country own pets, and 7% of households have more than one pet, yet only 3% of households carry insurance for their pets. Only 3%. On average, pet owners will receive a bill between $2,000 and $4,000 for emergency vet care during a pet's lifetime. And we can speak of this. I've spent so much money on my cats in the last year. It's unbelievable. Like, it's a very real thing. Joe, I can only imagine the Visas and MasterCards that
the May or the Ruby put me. I could have got 3 guys in the AHL for what.
So, like, pet insurance, if you own a dog or a cat, most of us do, exotic pets as well, birds, whatever, give our friend Bill a call. He and his staff, they're the best. They will take care of you. It's 412-364-3388 or neofusinsurance.com if you prefer to do it that way. Tell Bill that we sent you. He'll want to talk hockey for a little bit, but then you'll get down to business. So thank you again for everything, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill. You can't beat that. Get your insurance needs and talk hockey.
That's right.
So
and they really get you. It's good to have the insurance, because when it's like, hey, it's $15,000 or you're never going to see your dog again.
That's the conversation that, I don't want to have, because I love my dog, but I know that there's zero chance that my wife's going to say, like, what'd you say, Joe? You were like, that's why Visa exists.
Oh, yeah. So, Visa rose my dog a couple times and brought my dog back to life.
So as I was hinting beforehand, I don't know if you guys saw this in La Presse up in Montreal. I believe Fleury was at some kind of golf outing in Montreal, and he said it would be interesting. You never know. Here's the quote. It could be. You never know. In my opinion, he's the one who will decide where he wants to go. It would be fun for Quebecers to see him play every night. He's such a good player and leader. Now, I know that Fleury's probably just answering a question like, hey, do you think Crosby will ever leave the Penguins? And he's in Montreal and he's at a Montreal event. So, like, probably giving them what they want to hear, like, oh, hey, this would be. But they're very close. They, are very good friends. And that is what caught my eye. I'm like, whoa. Like, if it's like one of my best friends who I know absolutely would never want to be caught up in a situation or anything, told about them other than, hey, I want to stay in Pittsburgh, I wouldn't be floating that idea out there. I don't know. Am I crazy? Am I just a crazy yinzer that's, sitting here worrying about something that's not going to happen? Or is there, again, hey, the coaches are all gone. You trade Rust. Who does Malkin leaves? Who does Crosby have left? Are we playing with fire here?
Well, I didn't really think too much of Flowers' comments. You said it, Corey. He's at a golf tournament in Quebec, and there's French reporters. My sense was it was Flower just being polite and kind of saying what they wanted to hear. But I will say, he did just spend a couple of weeks with Sid in Sweden. And I don't think Sid was in the greatest mood when he got over there. He's not happy with how the last season went. He's sitting at the same side of the table as Mr. Joe Bartnick. Like, Sid wants to win right now. And I don't blame him, because players always want to win right now. They don't want any 5-year plan. And I'm sure Flower was aware of that. And I'm sure they sat down for dinner and had a chat about it. I don't doubt that for a second. So maybe in the back of Flower's mind, he was thinking to himself, Jesus, Sid, just, it didn't kill me to play somewhere else. Go enjoy yourself your last couple of years in Denver or wherever. But I wouldn't look into the comments too much, though. I don't think he was foreshadowing anything in any way.
I will say this. I do not begrudge Sir Sidney anything if he leaves, unless he goes to Philadelphia.
Which he would never do under AC.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't begrudge him anything. He wants to go play in Colorado. He wants to go play with Celebrini. He wants to go to the Kings. He wants to go to Montreal. He wants to go to Toronto. I don't begrudge him anything. The only thing that I do not want is Mr. Dubas greasing the skids, kind of like what he's doing with Malkin. That's what I don't want.
Don't want him, like making everything so uncomfortable that he decides to move out, like
or trading him.
Well, yeah. I mean,
either or. If Sid decides to go, you gave me 3 Stanley Cups. You came back from your injury. I jumped up and hit the ceiling when we won the lottery. You've been nothing but greatness. I begrudge you nothing.
Sidney Crosby owes Pittsburgh nothing. He owes the Penguins nothing. We all know that. He's in the rare Mario era. He literally owes nobody in Western Pennsylvania a damn thing. And I think there's a segment of Penguins fans that love him on a personal level so much they just want him to be happy and to be enjoyable.
That's me.
Yeah, and how could he be happy right now on some level, you say? And that's true. He's also freakishly loyal, and he's just so comfortable in Pittsburgh. He's one of us. He's really a Yinzer at this point. This is just his home. It's an interesting thing. I really, sometimes I think about things I want to write about in the off season. I actually have time to take a breath and think, well, what should I write about? I'm really interested in Crosby's relationship with Dubas. I know they talk a lot, and I think they get along pretty well. I think there's a healthy amount of respect there. But man, it's got to be interesting because Dubas clearly has one vision, and I don't think it lines up necessarily with the way Sid thinks things should be handled, right? I mean, and I'm not it's not like Sid's being some malcontent. I don't know, far from it. But you're never going to find a player, especially one at the end of his career, says, "Yeah, let's trade a bunch of guys and get a bunch of 18-year-olds, and in 5 years we're really going to have something." No, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. Of course, guys want to win right now. They're wired to win. It absolutely had to drive him nuts when he would see Washington at the top of the standings. Don't think that he doesn't think that way. Of course he does. And there's some teams that get his attention more than others, and that's one of them. And it was hard for him. And I don't remember a time when expectations were as low as they are for the Penguins in terms of next season. We're talking 20 plus years. I mean, that can always change, of course, on July 1st and make a couple of trades. Who knows what will happen in the next couple of weeks? But expectations are so low, it's got to be torturing him right now.
Yeah. Yes, and I also think that the way you treat his friends, as human beings, I don't like when my friends are not treated right. And there's people can say with this, that. I don't think Malkin, the way it's come down this week, I don't think that's very good. I don't think it was very good. I don't think it needed to be. I don't know. I just think it's kind of like we know Gino's, like I said, beginning of the show, Gino scores 80 points, and it's like, hey, we enjoyed 20 years. You want to go play in Florida, or you want to go to Arizona, or you want to go back to Russia or wherever? I get it, but we're not continuing this. It's been a great 20 years. But I think we know that. I don't think you have to talk about it in the summer.
Yeah.
It started before then, too. I'll tell you when it started. I'll go back a year and a half ago. To this day, Jake Gensel still gets pissed off when you bring up his final months in Pittsburgh. He really did not want to leave. He wanted to sign a deal. And I don't know how close things ever were, but I think the sense was that Kyle never really wanted to sign him, as much as he thought highly of him as a player. Kyle really wanted to replenish the farm system, and he knew Gensel was a way that they could do that. And I know a lot of guys on the team were not very happy that I think the way it was perceived was Jake's desire to sign with the Penguins was never really taken all that seriously. Jake isn't just a good player. He's a really popular guy in that locker room, too. He's Brian Rust's best friend. He and Sid were really close. That didn't go over very well in the locker room at the time either. So I think it probably started then where for some of the veterans, it's like, man, what's going on here? Like we want some help right now, but this clearly isn't the direction.
Yeah. And, this was talked about last week, but, and the big guy's not up there having a Cabernet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, well, what is going on?
Yeah.
So that gets back to my old point. I'm not trying to recycle what I said 30 minutes ago, but I can see how, okay, Raquel, whatever, we can get whatever for him. I just don't see in any universe where you're a better hockey team in 3 years without Brian Rust on your team. I can't see that argument.
Well, I mean, Brian is going to be 36 at that point, Joe. I mean, that is one thing I will. To play devil's advocate, I don't know.
That's why we have a podcast. Someone has to. It would just be me saying
it is. At some point, and listen, I always say about Rust, he gets better every year, and he does.
Yeah.
But at some point, he's not a big guy. Like I have to assume he's going to wear down at some point. Now, you don't want a situation where he gets old this season, and then you can't really trade him for anything, and he's just an okay third liner a couple of years from now. I'm not saying that'll be the case. I think he'll probably still be really good for the next 2 or 3 years. But I can understand why if you're Kyle Dubas, like, okay, the guy's a good player, but he's 33 years old now. I'm trying to build for the future. That I don't envy Dubas in this. And he makes a lot of money to make these decisions. He's in a very difficult spot because you can argue that this core is no longer good enough to win. They haven't made the playoffs the last 3 years.
It's not even an argument. It's the truth.
So, and how you go about building this team, there are some people think you just got to go young and take your lumps. I know people in the organization who have told me, like, Jesus, it's not that hard to build a team. Let's just build a damn team. Like, come on. Like, let's go get some good players. Let's see what happens.
Here's I'll give you some Yinzer hopium. This isn't all right. Sidney Crosby could pull an incredible performance and get this team to the playoffs next year. If Sidney Crosby wills this team into a 7 seed, I won't say that it's comparable to a Stanley Cup championship because obviously nothing is, but it would be one of his bigger accomplishments of his career if he wills this roster as it is.
He'd win the MVP.
Yeah. Well, so as it is now. With that being said, nobody was thinking Washington was going to do anything last year. And, like you were saying, that people in the front office are like, why don't we just build a team? It's like, you're not that far away. You know what I mean? Like if you do have Sidney Crosby and you fix the blue line, are you that far away?
That's exactly what I believe, Corey. And I just don't think it needs to take 5 years. I just think okay, you move Raquel. You buy out Letang. You buy him out. I know the cap's going up. The dead money is better than the 2-on-1 coming back the other way on your young Russian goaltender for 82 games. You get rid of Carlson. Buy. Whatever. Even if you get nothing back for him, he's gone. You keep Rust, and then you send 3 second-round picks for Mason Marchment. And you start turning it around. I just don't think we have to wait 5 years. Well, like that could all be done by Saturday.
Yeah. And even if they're rebuilding, we're 2 years into the rebuild. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, you're right. I mean, it's a tough spot. I mean, listen, and I know what Dubas would say if he was on the podcast right now. He would tell you, because he's told me, he's told other people, like, yeah, I could get us into a wild card spot next year, sure. But then what? Are we really going to win a cup? Like, he cares about cups. He doesn't care about making the playoffs.
Well, you know what, Josh, I mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. But okay, when Sid says I care about cups, I get it. He has 3. Dubas. There'd be a parade in Toronto if they got a wild card win. When they win the first round, they start the parade. Let's sit in Gino and Russ talk about cups.
Yeah.
Well, no, as I say it every week, and I'm going to say it again. It would be very, very sad, very unfortunate if this group never played in another postseason game. But it's been 3 years, so whatever they're doing in that regard isn't working. And they had a couple of hot streaks the last 2 years that made it look like they were close to making it to the playoffs. But how close were they really? I mean, I don't know. You can look at it so many different ways. When I look at this roster, I still see an enormous amount of holes, and I don't know that one offseason can really fix that. Then again, when I look at the East, I see a bunch of shitty teams and a bunch of average teams, taking nothing away from the Florida Panthers, who I greatly admire as a franchise. But one advantage they've had is just how god awful the East has been the last few years. This is not a good conference at all.
I mean, if you take away Tampa, I mean, there's really 14 mediocre teams or worse.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be antagonistic to my great friend Josh Joey. I just don't think it has to take 5 years.
No, I don't disagree.
That's all. And to just play, it seems like Dubas is planning it to take this long. And that's my thing, is it doesn't have to take this long.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean, and that's my thing with Kyle. He says the right things. He always says we're very urgent here, but then you don't necessarily see a whole lot of urgency. And that's why I keep talking about the next 10 days. Let's see what he does. I'm really curious if he thinks this is a time for patience, or if he gets a little aggressive and makes a move that nobody's expecting. We'll see. I don't know, but the spotlight is very much on him. We knew this was going to be a process, but this is not the most patient of sports towns. And seeing the Penguins be this potentially bad at the end of Sidney Crosby's career is a scary thing. Since we're talking about him, let's look at it from Sid's standpoint. And we talked about the idea of him playing for another team, and that everyone's always going to bring that up. I still don't think it's ever going to happen. So let's just say that it doesn't. Let's just say that indeed he only ever plays for the Penguins. If they really suck this season, I'm talking like bottom 5 in the league, which a lot of people are going to project. At that point, he only has 1 year on his contract after next season. Like, what makes him want to play any longer if the team's that bad? Like, you got to do something to give him some hope to sign another contract to keep him around for a couple of more years, if indeed that's what you want. And why wouldn't you? It's Sidney Crosby. Because if I'm looking at it from his standpoint, okay, he's got the Olympics to look forward to this season. Maybe that will distract him. Then he's going to come back to Pittsburgh and see a shitty team that's years away from contending. Is that going to compel him to sign another contract? I don't know.
I mean, you think about with Mario, we were lucky at the end of his career where you had a flurry, and then all of a sudden, it was either they were going to get Gino or they were going to get Ovechkin in 2004. So there was that excitement before Sid, like obviously the Sid was such a unique situation with that lottery. But yeah, even that was getting that way with Mario. I mean, I think, was it 2003 Mario played 10 games? I know it was injury related.
Something like that.
But it was just
Mario, it was never about winning for Mario as much as it is Sid. Not that Mario didn't love to win, but Mario, I think when he was healthy, even he just liked to perform. Like he knew he was the most talented player who ever lived, and I think he just enjoyed. Whereas Sid, I just think he's so obsessed with winning, and that's one of the reasons that we love him so much. That this has to be crushing him. What's happening to this team?
Is it that? I mean, that's kind of why I'm at peace if Sid wants to move on. I just want him treated like a king on his way out the door, because right. I've seen Yager leave, I've seen Francis leave, I've seen Stevens leave. People have left.
That's true.
So it happens.
And you could make an argument if you really want to rebuild and do the whole 5-year thing, like trading him is the best thing you could do. That if you want to talk about ways to get all kinds of young talent into the organization, well, there it is, right? But I don't think anybody actually wants that.
No.
And that to me would constitute the 5-year plan. Like that, then I agree with you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But
if there's any way we could possibly make the playoffs next year, this is Yinzer dream scenario. Make the playoffs next year, have a little bit of a run. The Rangers suck, but we have their draft pick, and we land with number 1 overall pick Gavin McKenna. All is right in the world. It doesn't, trust me. If you want to have a Yinzer, fantasy, I could go there. I mean, do you remember in 2004 during the lockout, whenever there was I think in February, it was like, oh, there might be a deal. They might come to an agreement. Mario was apparently at the table with a couple. I think Wayne was there.
Lemieux and Gretzky. Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, this is going to happen. And I literally, within 10 minutes of hearing that, was legitimately selling my father on how we were gonna make the playoffs. And that team was not good at all. So I can come up with any dream scenario.
Well, of course they could make the playoffs next year. It's the NHL. Like you don't know. And we're still talking about Crosby here. I mean, is it that unimaginable that Dubas makes a couple of good deals this summer and get a couple of good players and Jari finds his form? No, it's conceivable. Anything can happen. The Eastern Conference is really bad. I wouldn't bet on it. But that would certainly be quite a story, one I would enjoy writing about.
No, yeah.
It would be fun. It's fun to make the playoffs. So when you don't make them for 3 years, I can't poo-poo the idea of making the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, making the playoffs. Who cares about that? Oh, I know I do.
I don't give a shit about FSG's finances, but I mean, at some point you miss the playoffs 3 years in a row, you're losing a lot of money. And there were an awful lot of empty seats in that building this past season, something that, in my 16 years on the beat, I'm not used to seeing. And it hasn't, going back to really since the day Sid was drafted. That was the first time we've really seen a lot of empty seats. Everybody saw it at home games. The TV, it doesn't lie when you see all those empty seats. So just from a business standpoint, if I'm the Penguins, if I'm FSG, I'm like, all right, can we maybe be a little better next year, put some asses in the seats? Like that's going to become a story at some point, I assure you.
I mean,
especially when the cap keeps going up and up and up.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy to to make the bottom line. I do want to ask you guys, what do you think of Jonathan Toews going to Winnipeg?
Well, he is from Winnipeg, so
right.
I mean, I get it.
I know why he went. Yeah,
I'm cheering for him in my dealings with him. I really like him. I think he's a good human being. He's been through an awful lot with his health the last couple of years, so we'll see. I don't know what he possibly has left, Joe. He wasn't very good the last couple of years that we saw him, but I think it's kind of a cool story, though. Like I admit, I'll be watching on opening night when he makes his debut. I hope it's in Chicago. I hope they open the season against the Hawks. That'd be cool. I don't know. I didn't see it coming, but it's interesting.
No, it's just an interesting how I guess he's from Winnipeg. He is from Winnipeg. So that makes it almost like he's going to save the franchise. They can't get over the hump because, Adam Laurie's injured. He's out till the middle of the season. Right. I thought he would go to Toronto.
It was weird to me that he was like that he was a foregone conclusion that somebody wanted him, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like a guy who wasn't good last time we saw him, and he's been when was the last time he played?
2 or 3 years, I think.
I mean, it's at least 2 years, right?
Yeah, it's been a while. Let me say this about Toews. I think we all know, like, historically, he gets all this attention for being overrated. And in some ways he is. He certainly isn't one of the best 100 players of all time. Not if Evgeny Malkin isn't. We all know that. But I think he's one of those guys that, like, people so constantly talk about how overrated he is that really we've lost some appreciation for how damn good he was in his prime. Like, that guy, the Blackhawks didn't win those Stanley Cups by accident. And he played an awfully big role.
Oh, my God.
He was an unbelievable big game player. So I think it's like he just gets bombarded for being so overrated. Let's give him some credit. He was pretty damn good.
Oh, I'm 1,000% a Jonathan Toews guy. And when I make up my list of 100 players, all the Gino's better than, and he's not on it. Gino's better than him, but not. My gripe is not with Jonathan Toews making the top 100. Like, no, he deserves to be on there. I think he's a great hockey player. I'm just shocked that he went to Winnipeg because I thought for sure that I thought he'd go to Toronto.
Well, maybe they didn't want him. I mean, I don't know. That's only he knows that.
Well, no, but because all you hear about is how they're looking for a number 2 and possibly a number 3 center because Tavares is not taking anything less than what Brock Nelson got, which was a stupid deal. Right. And then they want to give him Duchesne money because Duchesne's making 4 times 4.5, which is a steal in Dallas. I think Duchesne's not what he used to be, but I don't know where you put Tavares because Tavares can't play number 2 center. If he's going to make $8 million a year, he can't be your number 2 center.
No, it's really interesting. And with Taves, like, let me throw a scenario out there. What if Taves, like, has a good season in Winnipeg on their bottom 6? And what if Winnipeg wins the cup next spring? What does that do for his legacy? Like, honestly, I mean, he's already got a pretty sound legacy. That'd be a 4th cup for him. And he would just have that reputation as the ultimate winner again. That would be quite a storyline. And Tavares, he had a pretty damn good season, Joe. Like,
he had a great season. Unfortunately, he should go play for Carolina because it's all regular season. I mean, he can't line up. Matthews can't line up. They can't line up against Barkov, Bennett, Lundin. That's the problem.
I don't know how badly Toronto wants him back. I mean, I don't know.
They don't want him back at a decent number. They're not insulting him, but they're not paying him what he had a better year than Brock Nelson, and Brock Nelson robbed a bank.
So if they don't bring him back, who's Toronto's number 2 center? I mean, who's out there that's better?
Listen to this. They're looking at Mikael Granlund, so we know that's a joke.
Oh, jeez.
And Poos Suter.
Well,
so you're telling me, Dubas, you're telling me we can't make the playoffs?
there you go.
So you're telling me Geno Malkin at $6 million isn't better than Poos Suter or Mikael Granlund?
Maybe the Maple Leafs will just be a complete train wreck this summer. I mean, that's
I
always
think
the
they're
plan.
going to be.
I mean, I don't know. Mitch Marner, where's Mitch Marner going to end up, Joe? I mean,
Well, did you guys see
someone's
Elliot
going to overpay him.
Friedman?
You know it.
Did you see
Stay
Elliot
in Anaheim,
Friedman,
which
mentioned somebody mentioned in the quotes or in the comments, but I saw it. I think Elliot Friedman's suggesting that Columbus is going to go pretty heavy
For Marner?
on Marner. There's something like in the 14 million range.
Jesus. I mean, he's a really good player, but I guess Columbus has some money to spend. And if they got Marner, honestly, we talk about making the playoffs, maybe that makes them a playoff team. I don't think anybody would be afraid to play them in the playoffs. They wouldn't be afraid of Mitch Marner in the playoffs, that's for sure. I think he's a wonderful player. I wouldn't be giving him $14 million a year, I'll tell you that.
I certainly wouldn't break up that top line either.
No.
If I was Columbus to put him on it. And I hope he doesn't come to Anaheim because I don't want Coach Q to have to deal with that. I like the Ducks. Marner seems like a nice man. He's just not a playoff hockey player. Period.
No.
Period.
By the way, if I were him, I would go to Anaheim.
Oh yeah, everyone should go to Anaheim.
Orange County, a lot of good young players to play with.
Yeah, I was begging Tocchet to go to Orange County.
Yeah, no, I could see that.
I love Anaheim. It's a great time.
Yeah, it is. No, I don't know. The Marner and Tavares situations are really, really interesting. I think Toronto's situation is interesting because on one level, they can't just keep doing the same damn thing over and over again. On another level, they're the only team that really gave Florida a fight.
Yeah.
They really did. They took them to 7. They went down there and won game 6 when they were down 3-2. That was actually pretty impressive. The Leafs are good. Like, it's a good team. What do you do if you're in Toronto? I don't know. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. There's no easy answer to the Maple Leafs plight. But giving Mitch Marner $14 million a year just wouldn't. I'm sorry. I think he's a heck of a player, but I don't think that's how you become a championship team if you do something like that.
No, I don't think they are going to do that at all.
No.
But I think they need to sign Tavares. But I think Tavares has to play. I think they can sign Tavares whatever he wants, or not whatever he wants. I think a 3 times 6. I mean, even at 3.7, the cap's going up. They got more money than God, but they still need a number 2 center. That's their problem. Tavares wasn't a good. Tavares was literally just a regular season performer.
Well, that's what they all are, though. I mean, I could say the same about Austin Matthews. Austin Matthews is one of the best players in the league, but he's never the same guy in the playoffs. It's every year.
You're 1,000% correct.
And I don't, is it the culture there? I certainly don't think it's the coaching. I think the world of Berube, there's something not right with it. Nylander's the only guy who, of their big names, that really shows up at the playoffs. I think the world of him. I know you did too.
He's immune. What they should have done though is they should have got Jonathan Tays. The real kicker though, and I think I talked about this on the show a couple weeks ago, is that Marner turned down going to Carolina, or they could have had Mikko Rantanen.
Oh,
it's hilarious. And speaking of Carolina, no team has more money to spend than the Hurricanes. And we also know that star players don't like playing in that system. What an interesting spot they're in. They have so much money to spend. I don't know. I don't have the exact figure in front of me. I think they have 30+ million in cap space, something very significant. Stars don't always like playing there. They've got the money to go get stars. Really interesting spot they're in. They could be the greatest regular season team ever if they spend some money this offseason, Joe. We know what will happen come playoff time, but the regular season, boy, they might be tough to beat if they make a couple of big signings.
Yet no one's going there though, Josh. And you
the
report it constantly. None of the players like playing for regular season Rod. They have to get rid of Brindamore. That's what they got to do.
He's a little bit like Torts in that way. Like people have a certain opinion of Torts or certain notion about him. 99% of guys I've talked with love playing for Torts. The only guys who don't like playing for Torts are the superstars. Like Mary didn't like it. And there were some others who, those guys don't like playing for Torts. Most people do. Brindamore is a little bit like that. And most guys do like playing for him. Mikko Rantanen didn't want anything to do with it. There have been other. Mitch Marner didn't want to. There are guys who just don't want to play for him.
Yeah.
They need
only one with a.
They need to wait for a real number one center to appear that has some shoulders, or maybe they'll overpay Bennett by $4 million. I like Aho. Aho's not lining up against Barkov.
No,
and Jesus and McKinnon.
He's a wonderful player.
They need a real center.
Yeah,
to ever go anywhere.
With how quickly Florida blew through them, that was to me. Carolina should be alarmed at how far away they are from a Stanley Cup team.
They were the JV.
Yeah, you win a cup when you have somebody like Aho as your number 2 center. Like that. Yeah. That's when, and he's really good. I'm not knocking him, but I know what you mean. To have the big stud as your number 1 center, that goes a long way, as we have seen in the playoffs the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Staal is the 3rd line center on a cup-winning team.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they were playing him as their 1st line center because Brindamore likes, defense. It's like
consistency, and somebody that's going to shut them down. And we have to crush Rod at the game. I mean, I don't know. Either we pop for it and give everybody in the front row at the Penguin game a regular season Rod shirt, or somehow we get sitting right behind their bench so that we can be casually shown on TV.
It works out great because even if Carolina wins 7-0, you can it's the regular season. What else were we expecting? It actually, I think, goes very well with the whole theme of the evening.
Yeah.
As long as the Penguins are okay with it, I don't think they'd have much of a problem with it. And Joe and I would keep it respectable. We wouldn't get out of hand or anything.
No, not at all. And the thing with Rod is, he's kind of a famous sore loser now. But I want to bring up all the people complaining about how much fun Florida's having.
Oh, yeah.
You're just jealous. They won the cup. They can do whatever they want. Oh my God, they were drinking 3 nights in a row. I do that, and I've never won a cup.
Why is it that when Ovi did it, everyone thought it was cool and funny, but when Florida does it, like it's something awful? I don't know. I thought it was hilarious when Kachuk was so shit-faced he could barely speak, and Connor McDavid, and then he dropped the microphone. It wasn't a mic drop. He was just so drunk he couldn't hold on to anything.
Mic drop.
I love the rat when they were thanking Boston. That was great.
You notice Marchand all of a sudden, like most people are coming around to him now. I don't know if he just had to get out of Boston. I've had so many people in the last couple of weeks say, I kind of like Marchand now. I don't mind him anymore. I guess it was just a Bruin hate thing.
Well, I've been on record for 10 years saying how much I love the rat. Sorry, Stan. Hold your ears up there. Stanley hated the rat.
I know he did. But boy, I my team any day. My God, what a player.
If he just didn't do the licking thing. Remember that licking?
He hasn't done it for years. He's grown up.
That was weird. Like I remember being like, I understand you want to be a pest, but you're licking people's faces during playoff games.
It got a little uncomfortable for everybody at that point, I think. But he's and honestly, like I agree with the decision to vote Sam Bennett as the Conn Smythe winner. But if they had given it to Marchand, I wouldn't have been insulted by it. That's how great he was, and that's you could see it all 4 rounds. It was the Phil Kessel effect to me, just to have a guy like that on your third line. It's just the ultimate nightmare of a matchup. And we've talked about the offseason. Where does he end up? Does Florida find a way to keep him? It sounds like Toronto's very interested in Brad Marchand from things we've heard, which would make sense. They could use him for sure. He's going to make a lot of money. I know that.
I don't think he's as effective in Toronto as he was in Florida. I think that when he was in Boston, he kind of had the Geno effect where he looked like the Rat every 3 or 4 games. Yeah. He didn't look like the Rat all the time. He was a third liner in Florida.
Yeah.
I think if I'm him, I stay there no matter what. I don't tell them that, but I mean, you could take a pay discount, live in Florida. It looks like a blast. Like that's a team. That's what I don't understand, all the hate. And honestly, Joe, every time, I swear 9 out of 10 times I click on somebody that's hating on them, and they're always from the Great White North.
You know why? Because they play exactly like Canada likes its hockey played. That's why. There's a lot of envy when they look at how Florida plays. That's a very Canadian-style hockey team.
But it shouldn't be happening in Miami, not in Miami. That should be happening in Alberta somewhere,
That bothers Canadians a great deal. And with Marchand, listen, you got the state income tax situation. You can still make money in Florida and sign for less. And the lifestyle that they get can't be duplicated. Like in January, they're driving around in golf carts at their practice facility. I've seen it. It's like, man, they've got a pretty damn good life down here. I mean, the Senators are all driving through a blizzard in Ottawa on their way to practice, and these guys are driving around in a golf cart.
And the tax code was the same before Vinny Viola took over, and they were terrible.
That it was.
It's
everybody wants to play for that guy, and everybody wants to play for Paul Maurice, and everyone wants to play for Billy Zito, not just because they're great at their jobs, but people like them. And the quality of life is a real thing with those guys.
I mean, you win friends when you put your 4th line out at the end like he did.
That was unbelievable, wasn't it? To have the presence of mind to do that.
Yeah, he's just he was a great coach. He's literally one of the things where he was a great coach even before he won the cup.
Yes.
But then he wins the cup, it just solidifies it. Now he's even more relaxed, having fun, just pulling all the right strings. Did you guys see the clip of McDavid's press conference where he kind of let a little window that he might not stay forever? And
I tweeted that out, and I did.
Oh, you did? I missed it.
The dog that's in the house on fire meme where he's like, "This is fine. Like, this is fine. Everything's okay."
Oh yeah.
I was like, that's Edmonton fans right now.
His tone was not quite what I was expecting. He very simply could have come out and said, "Yeah, I want to be here. We'll get it done." He did not do that, did he? No, that's still a couple of days after a heartbreaking loss. Maybe his, emotions weren't all there. I don't know. But if I'm an Oilers fan and I watched that press conference, I'm thinking, oh shit, this isn't good. So I'm not saying that he's not going to resign, but it got your attention, didn't it? Just some of the things that he said.
Yeah, I mean, I think it opens up I'll sign for 3 years to get your shit together.
Yeah. Yeah. So that might happen, Joe. I mean, I could see that.
Honestly, it should happen. And why is he going to give them 8 years? They haven't really done it. I mean, him and Leon have carried. No 2 players have met more and carried franchises more than those 2 guys.
No, and with McDavid, he's of the stature. He could sign for 8 years if he wants. And after a couple of years, he might say, hey, you can trade me now. Like, I'm done playing for you. They'd have to do it. They would have to respect his wishes at that point. He has that kind of power. So there's a lot of things to play.
But Josh, I'm not trying to say this, but in 3 years, unless he gets in a car wreck, he's going to make even more money. You know what I mean? It's not like you can't just sign for the cap is going to keep going up. It's like,
no, that's true. And he's showing no signs of slowing down. He is right in the heart of his prime. He He's 28 years old. He probably will still be in his prime for the next 4 or 5 years, I would think. And even after then, he's going to be great.
I don't want to go all butcher grass and call this 9 years ahead of time, but is he anywhere near like the Gretzky? Like is he on any kind of path like that? I've never really checked it out.
No, he's not.
Gretzky?
No, he's I think right now he would be like on a Sid pace. Like let's say Sid, I did the math or whatever a couple months ago and talked about it, but if Sid plays 4 more years, he definitely ends up over 2,000 points, and number 2 all time in points.
Right.
At the current trajectory, I think McDavid would be trying to beat that. Like he at the end of his career, he's
not gonna touch.
That surprises me. I thought he would.
I think
be a little further ahead, but
well, if you look at his pacing, but like but not factoring in decline, you're like, oh, if you do like a 10% decline, you're like, oh, he'll still rack up. There was a point when we thought Sidney Crosby was always going to have 100-point seasons,
right?
And then it's just inevitable. They get to that age where you're like, oh, hey.
I don't know how McDavid will age. So much of his game is predicated on speed. He's going to lose some of that in his 30s. I don't care who you are. But I mean, yeah, that would change things if he had a chance to, catch Gretzky. Then all of a sudden he becomes even more valuable, even at 40 years old or whatever, just for that alone. But if you're McDavid, why the hell would you want to be in Edmonton? I mean, maybe he's a loyal guy like Sid. I don't know him that well, but it's kind of a depressing place to live, I would think.
Did you hear his quote?
The great people of Alberta, but it's it's not exactly a marquee city in the league. It's just not that good of a team, Joe. You got Leon. Other than that, that's a very average NHL team.
And you can't say that now in 3 years, at the age of 31, 32, that he doesn't feel the footsteps or the door shutting. And if he does not win a Stanley Cup, I don't care if he passes Gretzky. Yeah. He's not in the Holy Trinity, and he might not even be on Mount Rushmore.
No. And does it hurt his legacy? Say he does ask for a trade in a couple of years or sign somewhere else and he wins a cup playing for the Rangers or the Blackhawks. Does it still hurt his legacy that he was in Edmonton for over a decade and he never won one there? Some people will say yes, some people will say no. But if he goes to a better team, the narrative will always be, well, he needed a little bit of help and he didn't win a cup on the team that drafted him like Sid or Ovi or Mario or, go down the list. I don't know. It's an interesting spot he's in, but it's not a great team. It's just not.
Not a good sign whenever he's talking about the daylight as his benefit. Like he's like, well, it's nice. It's sunny till like 10 o'clock. Somebody asked him what he likes about Edmonton.
But don't you think though it's already been? I mean, unless he wins in Edmonton in 2 years, then you say, okay, well, it took Ovi a while. It took Yzerman a while. Don't you think it's already kind of dinged? As opposed to if he won these last 2 years, he would already be on Mount Rushmore if he won the last 2 years.
Sure he would.
Sid would be kicked off that mountain faster than,
Well, and another problem he has, Leon Draisaitl turns 30 coming up. He's not a kid anymore either. We've probably seen, as great as Draisaitl is, he's not going to get any better, I don't think, at this point.
He can't. He's already the second best player in the world.
Right. And, when he's 30, that's, he'll be great for many more years, but or even McDavid, he turns 29 in a few months. I mean, he's not going to get better. Like this is, he's at his physical peak now. It's only going to be downhill at some point. Hopefully, a few more years for his sake. We talk about all these teams in the offseason, Joe. What does Edmonton do? They don't have any cap space.
Well, Josh, I think that's the stakes. Not maybe that's the incorrect word. I think the fact is there's just so many good teams.
Yes.
That the fact that he got to the finals twice, but then didn't win. That's what was so shocking about like Florida when they're up 3-1 in game one. I'm like, you're up 2 goals in a game one of a Stanley Cup final. You got to win that. Yes. Just like if you're at the final, you got to win that because look at who wasn't there. Dallas wasn't there. Colorado wasn't there. There was damn good teams that weren't there.
Vegas. Those are teams in the West. And that's his problem moving forward. The West is so much better than the East. yes, they've made it to the final 2 years in a row. You're going to do it 3 years in a row in that conference? I would say the odds are probably against them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Brock Nelson signing was foolish, but I don't know. They still got McKinnon, Landeskog, Nekushkin.
Yeah, no. You're absolutely right. That Dallas team isn't going anywhere. That Dallas team is loaded.
Yeah,
I can't believe that team didn't win the cup.
LA is going to figure them out one of these years, maybe. I mean, that team should be really good for a long time. Vegas is.
Utah's going to be good.
Yeah, they're coming. You're right.
But,
that Vegas team's a machine. I mean, they're good every year. I don't see that changing. There are other teams in the West. Yeah, I mean, it's.
So he was just it's like So I think with him and Leon and tweaks here and there, they could be even better than they've been the last 2 years. The next 3 years, Scotty Bowman's kid could make 5 great things. They could get a better goaltender, and Jari could be up for the Vezina, and they still don't win the cup.
Well, yeah, no, they could be better on paper the next couple of years. That doesn't mean they're going to win the cup. They probably won't.
That's what I mean.
That's the way it works. No, and that, of course, Connor McDavid could be a free agent in about 372 days, which would become by far the biggest story in the sport. That would be an explosive story if Connor McDavid got to July 1st of next year and was a free agent. Holy shit!
I have a feeling he wouldn't do a LeBron level decision, on TSN, maybe on like CBC or something like that, or TVA, one of those.
It's good to know that he won't come here because that means we'd win faster than 5 years, and we can't.
I know, and that's
we have to wait 5 years for that.
Joe, you were reading my mind. I'm sitting there hearing Josh talk about how hard the West is, and I'm thinking, Connor, I think here's funny. Did you guys see that Madden was all over the B team for it? So like I brought up McDavid coming to Pittsburgh, like, tongue in cheek, like, hey, you should come here, play with Sid, win a cup, and then before he retires. Apparently the B team was talking about it for like 30 minutes on their airwaves. Like McDavid legitimately, like, why wouldn't McDavid come to Pittsburgh? Like, I can't believe there's people that actually think that's going to happen. Just like people that think Sidney Crosby is going to leave to go to anywhere, because Penguins fans, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we freaked you out a little bit earlier. It's not happening.
These are tough times for Pittsburgh sports fans, Corey. They just need to fantasize about something good. I think that's.
Yeah, probably... I mean, we've got a quarterback.
Joe, the Pirates won tonight.
Oh,
it's like getting a reaction out of Joe. I can't.
I will say, hey, so I do have to give this a shout.
I was watching women's. I was watching the Pirates are on, but I watched SEC women's diving championships.
You're a better man for it.
Yeah,
it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, no,
it's more interesting than the one pitch I saw the guy, the O'Neill Crew guy, whatever, he's grounded out. Like, oh wow, that's fantastic.
He hits the ball like 200 miles per hour and goes about 450 feet, but he strikes out, the other 9 times that he goes to the plate. I do have to give some love to the Pirates though, because my boy was in the hospital dealing with his surgery. Everything went well for all these. Thanks for everybody's thoughts and prayers. But Andrew McCutchen sent a video personalized to him talking about how, I know you're missing your first travel ball season because of this and everything. And I got to say that was, he loves Paul Skeens on the Pirates. McCutchen, though, was his guy since he was born. And he was smiling so big. His smile was so big. He said that the stitches in his head were hurting. He was trying to stop smiling.
Stick taps, whatever they do in baseball, to Andrew McCutchen.
Cutchen's a good guy.
Yeah, and I can crap on the Pirates all day long, and I do.
I mean, we can.
Andrew McCutchen is good people.
Yeah, and I do feel bad for Kutch. I remember him mentioning years ago. He's like, I saw the Steelers and the Penguins have the parade, and I always thought we'd have it here, but you got to do something sign a free agent. I don't know, something like that. Anyways, well, that's
we're glad your boy got good news, Corey, this week.
All good, but hey, everybody, we appreciate you as always. You got to check out a lot of you are in Pittsburgh. July 10th is coming up soon, so definitely go check out the Mr. Joe Bartnick at the Pittsburgh Improv. And the good news is he'll want to. You'll have free agency and the draft to talk about after. So go up and shake Joe's hand. He'll gladly talk hockey with you.
We'll be talking hockey all night at the Permanis right next door. Believe me.
Yeah.
That's where I always hold court. We always watching and then and I think it's the All-Star break too, so we won't have to watch baseball. So it'll be good.
That's there you go.
Diving.
That's perfect. And and we'll we might even have to have an emergency podcast in the next week. Who knows what's going to happen with trades? There could be a big trade coming. There, I suspect something significant is coming.
If Rust is traded, the emergency podcast will be from Allegheny General.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
Final podcast. Farewell, Joe.
As I'm clinging for life.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate you as always. And, reach out to us, email the show, twofortalking, or contact at twofortalking.com. And we will talk to you next week.
Thanks, everybody.